Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are here. We're arriving, bouncing around, trying to get comfortable. We are at the end of the week. I hope you all are doing really, really well. I'm looking forward to having this conversation here with you today. I'm Shelby Leigh, if you don't know me. And if you do, that's great. I'm glad to see you all joining and excited to have you here. Today, we are exploring the topic of compassion fatigue and burnout, and how being trauma informed can leave you feeling on top of your game, feeling more at ease in yourself, feeling confident, leaving sessions feeling connected to your aliveness, your genius, and letting it be easy. One of the coolest things I find about being trauma informed is that it makes work and life and interacting with clients and supporting clients so much easier than I thought it would. I think I had imagined, if I work with folks with trauma, that's going to make things so hard and heavy and daunting. And I have to say, and over the past 15 years, I've been increasing, the level of trauma I work with as a specialist. So there's trauma informed and trauma specialist. I am a specialist, and I have to say that it just gets more and more joyful seeing people who have seen so many practitioners before and showing them some simple things and being with them in a really simple way where I'm resourced and I'm regulated. We're going to talk about that. And they come alive. They feel more safe. They feel more connected to their center and able to receive support than ever before. And I'm doing less than ever before. So the cool thing about learning about trauma-informed care with me is that it makes things feel easy, even fun, even playful. A lot of us can get a little nervous or scared if trauma symptoms show up in front of us when we aren't trauma-informed. We can also tend to overgive or lean in too much or be really tense and tight, trying to make sure harm isn't happening. And it can be really exhausting and take a bit of a toll on the system and then over time on our businesses and our practices. So part of my excitement for bringing trauma-informed care to you, and welcome, I see you all showing up. Please feel free to say hello in the comments. Please feel free to share your names. One reason I'm excited to bring trauma-informed care to you is because it really makes us each be able to offer our gifts in our own unique ways. Every modality is powerful. Every modality is useful. And when we bring trauma-informed care in, it helps us be able to breathe more fully, to settle in our seat and guide people in the modalities that we know so well, from a place of trusting ourselves and knowing that when stress responses arise, that we've got it. We know what to do. We know how far to take our clients. We know when to back off. So a big piece of not burning out is getting to sink in to ourselves, where we feel at home in ourselves. We feel at ease. We trust that we've got it. We trust we know what to do. And when we are regulated in our own nervous systems, so when we feel centered, we feel connected to the present moment, to our own breath, to anything in our experience that feels supported, comfortable, resourced, we have the ability to be with these clients without feeling exhausted or overwhelmed, because we're so tapped in to our own vital force, our own life force, our own genius, in a way where we're enlivened by what happens in our sessions, instead of feeling overwhelmed and not sure and second guessing ourselves and holding ourselves tightly or holding our clients tightly. When we're trauma informed, we laugh more, we settle in more. We're actually more messy. We don't have to do it right all of the time, which leads to a lot more space to be ourselves. When we can fully be ourselves in our coaching practices, our care provider practices, therapy, we have access to so much more energy. And when we don't have that energy, we run into problems like compassion fatigue and burnout. We tend to give more to our clients than we give to ourselves. We tend to fall into old patterns of people pleasing or fawning. Many of us might actually even be in our own trauma responses without knowing it. We might be in a bit of a state of freeze, just kind of scared, holding tight to wanting to make sure we're doing it right so that we're not harming or so that we're helping. We might have our flight response activated if a client is feeling really overwhelmed, or they're having emotions or experiences or sharing things with us that overwhelm us when we're not fully resourced. So we might be managing our own flight response, like, get me out of this room, this is too much, I can't handle it. We might be managing our own fight response, wanting to really get the client to know what we know and heal in a way that we feel is good because we know we can help them. I just really want to get in there and shake them, you know. We also might be experiencing a fight response with ourselves of like, oh, that inner critic, that inner self-doubt. Sometimes these stress responses show up in ourselves when we have clients with us that aren't aware that they're experiencing trauma responses. And so it can pull us into our own physiological experience of what they might be experiencing because we resonate on a similar level. We haven't maybe done the healing of the trauma that we carry in a way where when it comes up in them, it doesn't overwhelm us because it's not hitting anything in us that we haven't healed or worked with. When we are regulated, when we're integrated, when we've worked with our own trauma responses, when we know what hotspots we have, we can sit back and receive our clients. And when we're trauma informed, we're in this space where we're sitting in our steady center. We're able to welcome every part. We don't get alarmed when things come up that are shared that might feel scary. We can be concerned, we can care a lot, but alarm tends to really activate both people's nervous systems. We're able to be connected to them in a way where it feels good for us and them, instead of doing a lot of micromanaging in the back of our head of, oh, we need to do this intervention or this modality, or maybe I should be doing that or do that. It's like, nope, here's what we do. We set up the space together. We set up the relationship together in a welcoming way where everybody's connected and oriented. They know what's happening and when. We do everything we learn in my course, Creating Safer Space, to know that we have done our absolute best to create a space that feels safe enough for clients to show up for the work. And then we all can, over time, client, student, practitioner, settle into our own bodies, our own authentic and genuine parts of ourselves to receive the gifts that we both bring to this space. When we're in these states of receptivity, we have so much more energy. We can be tapped in to a source of energy that is even beyond us, that can be supporting us. We're leaning into support. When we're not trauma informed, sometimes we're leaning out of our own bodies, or we're in our bodies, but taking ourselves towards the client, trying to get over there in their business instead of staying connected to our power, our clarity, our life force, our support. I got a question before the call of somebody that couldn't make it, or the live, around this topic, and I just wanted to answer it. The question was, how did I burn out when I thought I was being trauma informed? What might I not be seeing? And I love this question because it sure can blindside us. And I'm not sure I have the answer for it, but I can speak to it. And I have experienced this too, where I'm just trucking along. I think I'm doing great. I'm using all my tools that I've learned over all of the years. And something gets touched, and I just feel drained. I want to give up. I want to quit. I feel like I've got nothing left. And these moments can last for moments. They can last for days. They have certainly lasted for months. Those blindsiding moments can be, really overwhelming, especially when we have been trained as trauma-informed practitioners. So what might we be missing? This is such a good question. I'd love to hear your comments on what you think that might be. And I think it could be any number of things. We could be missing something that happened in an interaction or a series of interactions between us and our clients, where there was a lot of material that was coming up that maybe we didn't realize was so charged. For example, I know a lot of people right now, care providers, that are pretty burned out from being so supportive during this pandemic for so long. So many people have exhausted every tool they know and every resource they have, trying to continue to show up in the way they've always known how to show up amidst a collective traumatic experience. And they are really blowing out their systems because it's more than we have been trained to handle. It's more than any of us have been trained to handle. And I think a lot of us don't give ourselves enough credit for going, this is really big. I know for me, I tend to take a lot of pride in I have an enormous capacity for suffering. I can show up for a lot of pain. And yet in the pandemic for a long time, I was like, yeah, I got this. I've been studying this my whole life. I've been practicing for this my whole life. Got it. And then, many, many months in, I was like, I don't got it. I do not have it. I am tired. I am hopeless. I am depressed. I am anxious. I can't see the light through at the end of the tunnel, and I hit one big place like that in the middle of the pandemic. And it felt perplexing because I really believed I was leaning into all of my supports. I was doing everything I knew how to do. I was doing all of my self-care, yet I still burned out. And I think sometimes we don't see or give ourselves credit for the layers of things that start stacking up, because often with trauma, it's like, here's this one thing. It's like, yeah, my boss criticized me. And then like, oh, my person at home didn't show up for me. And then, oh, my dog had to go to the vet. Now we have this big pandemic. And now all of a sudden I'm having like digestive issues and, stress after stress after stress after stress. And then we look on the media and there's a mass shooting, and it's like, we could not possibly alone be able to do this by ourselves. Compassion fatigue happens. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with us. It doesn't mean we've done anything wrong. It means that we're tired. It means that we need to rest. It means that our bodies are speaking to us and wanting our attention. And I think it means it touches some core stuff in us that maybe we haven't been able to fully tend to before. So I know a lot of people right now are up against a lot of fear and helplessness that they haven't been able to look at before. A lot of grief and anger that they haven't felt the depths of before. And I don't care how well trained any of us are. It hurts. It's painful. It's hard. It takes us out sometimes. And we need to take a step back and tend to our precious hearts, tend to our health, tend to our bodies. And in times like this, it's non-negotiable. In the past, I could have maybe slid by, for a while. But right now, I'm noticing for myself and many others, it's like, no, actually rest has to be in the schedule. It's non-negotiable. Strong boundary, self-care, extra support, extra consult sessions with our supervisors, our trusted peers, our colleagues. These things are non-negotiable now, because compassion fatigue and burnout happens to all of us. The reality is, when we're trauma informed, it happens less and it's fewer and far between. But also, when we're trauma informed, we don't make it wrong. We don't make it bad. We don't shame ourselves, blame ourselves. We don't do that to each other either. We go, yep, this is the human experience, and this is the experience of a lot of care providers right now. Others feel this too, and I am not alone. When we're trauma informed, we go, oh, it makes so much sense. I feel this way. When we're trauma informed, we go, oh, isn't that interesting? Isn't this interesting? What's happening? I thought I had this and now I don't. How can I slow down enough to listen to what is really needed? What is my body speaking? Oh, it's so tired, and I'm frightened that if I take a few days off, I'll lose clients or I won't be able to pay my bills. Okay, what is one thing I can do to tend to that fear, to tend to that helplessness? One thing. And I think for many of us, we get to that point where it's like, just one thing isn't even going to dent it. So I'm not even going to do one thing. And I'm here to say, just do the one thing because it will build on itself. So I hope that helps with that question. But what really comes to mind is all of those little layers of stress stacking up. No matter how trauma informed we are, we're not invincible. We're not superhuman. We are all going through a pandemic among many, many other layers of traumatic experiences collectively right now. And it's touching many of our wounds from our own personal histories. And it's lighting it up in each of us. And then we're lighting it up, bouncing off of each other. And this is something that we're not trained for, and we are getting trained for right now. And so we have to do it together. It's a lot. And the topic of the conversation today really is, when we are trauma informed, how does that either prevent burnout or compassion fatigue, or how can we work with it? So I've named some of those things. It makes so much sense that it's happening. Isn't this interesting? How can I pause and see what's really wanted and needed? How can I work with my own trauma responses when client stuff is up and I'm just, pouring my heart out to them? How can I understand that my system is activated? We come into this experience of regulation. We do that when we're trauma informed. We resource ourselves again and again. We lean into support. And I'll just go back to the beginning just to remind you that when we're trauma informed, we have all these structures and systems in place from the first moment of meeting a client or a student or a patient or whatever your profession is, so that from the very beginning, our nervous systems can feel regulated and safe, and our clients can feel safe enough to be with us, our people. So we are building that from the very beginning so that we can just land as ourselves, authentically and genuinely. We can be more playful. We can bring authentic parts of ourselves. We don't have to do that rigid thing where we leak and waste so much energy, exhausting ourselves, trying to make sure we're not hurting people or harming people. So when we have these trauma-informed systems set up, we get to lean into something. Our people get to lean into something. And then we just get to breathe so much easier. One of the pieces in there that I love, because I shared with you earlier, that we get to be messier when we're trauma-informed. What does that mean? I thought I would be less of a mess if I was trauma-informed. I thought I would learn how to do things right. The reality is we can't do things right. We get to be ourselves. We get to set up these systems. We get to do the best we can. And we get to understand what activation looks like, how to help people if they are overwhelmed. But also, if we screw it up because it is too messy for some reason, we can create repairs. And when we can trust ourselves that if we miss something and our client feels overwhelmed, or a student is not feeling seen, heard, or understood, or somebody that comes to us has felt harmed, we trust ourselves wholeheartedly that we can show up for creating a repair with them. We can take accountability. We can seek to understand what happened. We can really help our people feel seen, heard, and understood in what happened there. And that, just trusting ourselves that we can clean it up, we can make a repair, we can come back into connection, we can be accountable and responsible, that creates a lot more energy in our system to continue to show up compassionately. It actually generates more and more compassion and energy because we are authentically dropping into that compassionate space that we can trust. We're here for this. We're here for the hard stuff, the uncomfortable stuff. And we can own our own stuff and be responsible for our own nervous systems. We get so much energy back when we trust ourselves there. So when we're trauma informed, we learn how to do that. If you haven't seen my video on repairs, it's on the opt-in, I think on my website, where you just enter your name. But I have found that video is incredibly helpful for people, and it helps them be able to show up and not be scared of their clients who have trauma, because that's a big piece. We just need to know we can clean it up if anything happens. So these are some thoughts. I don't know if I addressed the theme fully or not. It is a Friday. I am a little tired. I'm not in compassion fatigue, but I just wanted to really show up authentically here with you as well. If you have any questions and you're here now, feel free to write them in the chat. If you're here later and questions come up, feel free to write them in the chat as well. I'd also love to hear just what it's like in your body and your heart and your mind as you're listening to me speak here, because when we're talking about trauma, it's here, it's in the field between us. And so it lights things up in us. And so we always want to make sure we just slow down a little bit, take some breaths, come in contact with our body to go, yeah, it's hard sometimes. Some of these topics are heavy and exhausting, especially if you are experiencing burnout or compassion fatigue. So we just come back to that experience of you are not alone. It happens to all of us, and there is a way through. I'd love to invite you all to join me in my course, Creating Safer Space. It's $150 off right now. I'll put that in the comments. And it's open for registration for another few days or so. And it's a phenomenal course. I get really great feedback. And the thing about it is that it's simple. It really simplifies things so much. It's easy to go through. You can take your time. It's mostly self-paced. I'll show up for some Q&As here and there. But it's really easy to move through. And I hear even from the very first module, people feel like they can go sit down with their clients and students and breathe. And I'm just really proud to have it out in the world. And the community is gorgeous. It's worldwide. A lot of devoted, high integrity practitioners who really want people to feel safe. And I would actually say, while it is a course on trauma-informed care, it's really about human-informed care. I hear that what I offer here, between the ways of being, the nervous system regulation, the skills and tools, that it's a way of being with other humans, family, friends, community, ourselves, and the people we work with. Not just people who are overwhelmed by trauma benefit from trauma-informed care. Everyone benefits from trauma-informed care. Being trauma-informed as a coach, a therapist, even a trauma specialist. Trauma specialists need to also be trauma-informed. It's ridiculous how many people aren't. Doctors and all their staff, everyone needs to be trauma-informed. Medical people, I have a different course for, Creating Safer Healthcare. But it's non-negotiable at this point. We are in a state of collective trauma. We have to know how to meet it. It is so tricky to understand if you're not trained in it. By nature, it's tricky. It wants to trick you as a practitioner. We can't know what we don't know, and even if we have the best of intentions and the best intuition ever, these skills are imperative. So I hope you'll join me. I hope you'll send your friends. I would absolutely love to have you in the course. Share it with anyone you know. And thank you so much for showing up for this experience today. I will be back in 2 days on Sunday, same time, to talk about the concept of being a victim. I hear a lot of people, especially coaches these days, talking about their clients being stuck in victimhood, and it really pisses me off. So I want to talk about why that is not a thing that I support when we call each other, our clients, anyone, victims in a way where we're like, oh, they're just so not evolved, or they're stuck in their story. No, that's not what's happening. So on Sunday, we are going to talk about it. Tag your friends here, remind them, let them know, let yourself know. And I look forward to exploring that with you. Okay, have a beautiful day or evening wherever you are.